Get fortified. I know it's been a while since my last show. My schedule has been pretty full, but I want to welcome you to the latest episode of Fortified with Gord Fortin. I am nobody important. Remember, it's important to be humble. Thank you for tuning into the podcast on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Like I said, I know it's been a while since my last show. My schedule has been pretty full with work and for personal matters. I've been dealing with some health problems in the last month. It's been tough, but right now it's the gift that keeps on giving. But I still felt I needed to do at least one episode this month, so here we go. But enough about me. Remember, if you want to advertise, we can set something up. All you have to do is email me at gord.f.forte@gmail.com. That's gord.f.fortin@gmail.com. I feel this is something I'm going to have to start pushing for. With YouTube being one of the two platforms I currently use to distribute this podcast, there is some uncertainty about the future of my channel on YouTube due to the recent Children's Online Primary Protection Act, or COPPA, charges against YouTube. YouTube got a hefty fine over ads and data collection of children. I have no idea how this decision or whatever will affect channels outside of the United States. I've heard rumors that act like the sky is falling, and right now I don't know what to believe at this point. But regardless, I will continue to upload to YouTube and to BitChute. I will start uploading the show directly to Facebook and Minds as well. Better to get on all fronts. And although I can't quite afford it yet, my goal is still to get a hosting service for the audio. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, on with the show. Earlier this month, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau unveiled his new cabinet. Trudeau's new cabinet is larger than the one that was formed in 2015, so the government has grown. There are now 37 ministries, and there are 30... Then, my apologies. There are now 37 ministries, when there were 31 4 years ago. Alberta and Saskatchewan are they are shut out of the cabinet since no Liberals were elected in either of those provinces. That said, British Columbia has 4 ministers, and there is one from Manitoba. So, realistically, there is some Western representation. Manitoba MP and former cabinet minister Jim Carr was not given a position in the cabinet this time around. He is now what's called a special representative to the prairies. The sole minister from the prairies, which is essentially Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, for those not from Canada, is MP Dan Vandal. He was given the Northern Affairs portfolio. He is from Manitoba, or at least represents a Manitoba riding. There are other ministers that allegedly have some kind of tie to the West. I've heard reports that the Deputy Prime Minister, a new position it's new. It was recreated by Trudeau. It was a position gutted by Stephen Harper, the previous Prime Minister. Trudeau, like I said, reinstated the position and gave it to Krista Freeland. She was born and raised in Alberta, but represents a Toronto riding in Ontario. Freeland will serve as the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, which is most likely right now going to focus on national unity, considering what it's been like so far in Canada after the election. The cabinet is primarily occupied from MPs from Ontario at 17 and Quebec at 11. The Atlantic provinces, which for those outside of Canada would be Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, have 4 ministers between them. None of the MPs, or the Liberal MPs from Yukon, or the Northwest Territories, are Nunavut's MP, there are 2 Liberals one in Yukon, one in Northwest Territories. They are not cabinet ministers, which means there are no cabinet representation in any of the 3 territories, and that includes Nunavut. However, I don't believe a Liberal wanted that riding. There were some high-profile shuffles, but 29 ministers remained in cabinet. They were joined by several newcomers. Catherine McKenna was one of the high-profile shuffles. She was moved to infrastructure and communities when she, in the previous term, was the environment minister. Bill Morneau remains the finance minister. Harjit Sajjan remains the national defense minister. These are just examples. I'm not going to go through all 37. This information can be quickly found in a Google search. There have been many outlets that essentially published or printed or however they diffuse information, sent out lists. Now, new cabinet, this is one I find maybe a little hard to analyze. However, I imagine, realistically, based on how polarized politics is right now, that your opinion on how this new cabinet, how the new people will fit in, or how they will serve Canada, is going to very well depend on how you view the Liberals. So in this political climate, I guarantee it's either going to be viewed as Trudeau, the absolute devil incarnate, picked the most incompetent people possible for these roles, or the absolute dear leader picked the cream of the crop and they are all ready to be the bestest team ever. I don't know which side is more delusional on that, but regardless, it's clear, like I said, the government is bigger. There are more ministries, more portfolios. Thus, it's most likely going to be more expensive to operate. Now you could read into that whatever you want. But with ministries like the Ministry of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth, or the Ministry of Middle Class Prosperity, the Ministry of Canadian Heritage, and the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality, I have to wonder if money spent on increasing and growing government really is worth it with ministries like that. Some of these sound like frivolous ministries that could easily be part of another portfolio or non-existent at all. Maybe I'm wrong, but I struggle to truly see the relevance of some of these ministries. Now, Trudeau's minority government is facing some major issues. Cabinet is dominated by Ontario and Quebec. Now, I understand it's hard to get representation realistically from a region that didn't vote for you, or vote for your party, vote for the candidates you ran in that region. But at the end of the day, the prairies in the western provinces, the prairies with one person, is largely non-existent in the cabinet. British Columbia is not traditionally seen as one of the prairies, but the prairies and BC is lumped into what we would call the West in Canada. This is a problem since British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba together contain a large portion of the Canadian population. I would estimate it would be around 1/3 of the overall population. I think Trudeau has shown some outside of the box thinking, at least, to tackle the idea of representing the West to combat Western alienation. Appointing Freeland to that position when she allegedly has lived in the West, at least, is, in my opinion, better than nothing. However, I truly question what that will accomplish. I'm also skeptical of this this representative to the prairies position Carr has. Again, I'll say it at least shows effort, like baseline effort. But the prairies, as I said, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, those are 3 different provinces with 3 different identities and priorities. So I don't know how well one person is going to be able to balance this. One point I want to comment on is McKenna's moving to another portfolio. I'm curious as to why. Is this a sign of a shift on the climate change policies? did she... I know she drew quite a bit of criticism during her time on this portfolio. Is this move to appease the critics? Did she want another portfolio? I think these are interesting questions to ask. I think she was divisive as environment minister, and I also think some of the criticism she got was mean-spirited. I think it's a good idea to move her to another portfolio and have someone else take over, realistically. We'll see if this is worth a damn because, as I said, it's a minority government. Since it's a minority government, that means that Trudeau's Liberals don't have a plurality or the majority of the seats in the House of Commons, which means the other parties, if they align themselves together, have more seats than the governing party and could force a motion of no confidence, which could topple the government and throw Canada back into another election federally. So like I said, we'll see if any of this is worth a damn, because we could realistically end up in an election in 8 months. I don't think Canada would be ready psychologically if that happened. But if Trudeau tries to govern autocratically like he still has his majority from 2015, he'll end up just like Joe Clark. Clark beat Trudeau's dad, Pierre Trudeau, in 1979 to be prime minister. He won a minority government that barely lasted 10 months. So, overall, personally, I have little faith in cabinet selections. Sure, you could have leaders appointing ministers that actually have knowledge and the background that's relevant to the portfolio in question, but I do wonder how many times does this actually happen? I could see with Shajan's military background and Morneau's business background that they do have experience that's relative to the defense ministry as well as the finance ministry, respectively. But that does not automatically mean they will be competent in the positions they hold. Now, other times, I'm going to use myself as an example. My weight, poor diet, lack of exercise should realistically disqualify me from being the health minister. Anybody looking at me pushing health initiatives when I don't practice them myself, you would be right to say I'm a hypocrite. I have no experience working in finance, so I shouldn't be finance minister. So here's what I'm saying. The Minister of Justice, for example, should have experience in the justice field. The Indian Affairs Minister should have experience dealing with First Nations. Get the point? You could tie that to any ministry that exists currently. I'm not saying people can't learn to do the job, but I still feel there should be qualifications. So now we're going to move on to the next topic. As it turned out, one of the party leaders that I thought would be safe is no longer leader of her political party. Just by using the pronoun, I gave it away. Now, to be clear, Elizabeth May is no longer the leader of the Green Party, but she was not kicked out. She resigned the position on her own. Joanne Roberts was named the interim leader. May will stay on as leader in Parliament and as the MP of Saanich Gulf Islands in British Columbia. Roberts is from Halifax, and she does not have a seat in the House of Commons. She ran in 2019, but lost. She is also the deputy leader of the party. The party is expected to have a leadership convention in Charlottetown in October 2020. May was the Green leader since 2006, which is 13 years. She wanted to choose her time to leave. So she left on her own, feeling it was time to go, while still wanting to serve the people of her riding. So the party, my apologies. Part of me is surprised in this development. The other half is not. May has been leader of the Green Party since 2006. That's a long time. Now, realistically, in terms of Canadian politics, with leaders like William Lyon Mackenzie King or Pierre Trudeau, We have leaders that have had close to 20-year reigns as either party leaders or even as prime ministers. So that 13 years may not be that long in terms of Canadian politics, but on a human level, that is quite a long time, 13 years. The ridiculousness of politics and public life can wear anyone down, realistically. I imagine this is even more amplified when you're the head of a party. So, looking at her time as leader, I would imagine she felt it was time to step back. She made her play, and now she's passing the ball to someone else. Now, regardless of what you think it may, she has brought major success for the Green Party. She got the party's first seat in Parliament during the 2011 election. She got re-elected in 2015, and later in that term, the party won a by-election, which doubled their caucus, realistically. In the recent election, she led the party to further growth and got 3 seats. There was even a time where it looked like, in the 2019 election, where the Green Party would have doubled their seat count and got to 4, but in the end they only got 3. Now, realistically, I know 3 seats isn't a whole hell of a lot. If any of the big 3 parties, the Liberal Party of Canada, the Conservative Party of Canada, or the NDP, the New Democratic Party, if any of them would have ended up with 3 seats, that would have been a total disaster. But for a small party like the Green Party, it's great growth. Like a baby, you start crawling and then you start making baby steps, and before you know it, you're actually walking. Now, I'm perfectly willing to recognize her accomplishments, even though I don't like her party nor its policies. I think it's important. I think she played a great role in growing the Green Party, and we'll see where the party goes from here. And also, we'll see how long the other leaders last. Now we're going to move on to the last segment of the show. I want to take a second to speak on Don Cherry's firing from Coach's Corner by Sportsnet. He was fired due to comments made on November 9th's show. They were about people who don't wear poppies during Remembrance Day. He used a phrase to describe this group that many took to be bigoted to immigrants. I'm not going to say it here because I know it's going to be taken well out of context. He affirms he did not say or make these comments with hate. He mentioned he could have maybe better articulated his argument, but refused to apologize. His comment was essentially expressing his disgust or unhappiness with people not wearing poppies on Remembrance Day. He informed the world about his firing on November 12th. Now, Cherry is doing a podcast of his own, so he has sort of bounced back. Based on what I've read, it will be named after one of his old shows. I believe it was Grapevine. So those are the facts. Now, let's be real here. Gotta say from the start, I'm no hockey fan. I'm no fan of Cherry. I don't dislike him, but I don't necessarily like him either. I have no dog in this fight. He's made some disparaging comments throughout his career about French Canadians. He's free to make those comments. Some have bothered me, some have not, but like I said, that's freedom of speech. He has the right to make them, and I will defend to the death his right to free speech. Normally, I would have no desire to defend him at all, but I feel I should, due to him being the next victim of these hypocritical cancel mobs. This whole matter is just stupid, but this has led to some pretty funny memes, in my opinion. Like the woman yelling at a cat, or the Fabricland going out of business. But hilarious memes aside, this thing is just stupid. In a vacuum, it is clear that this should not have happened. If Sportsnet wanted to sack him, they should have just not renewed his contract the next time, or the last time they negotiated. The context of his use of this so-called offensive language did not have a racial tone to it. Yes, the expression does historically have a racial connotation to it, but looking at it in the context of how it was used, it's clear he used it to describe everyone who does not wear a poppy, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, regardless of country of origin, regardless of any other way you could divide people into different groups. So if I don't really care, why am I talking about it? It's because this did not happen in a vacuum. This is another case of cancel culture and the idea of rules for thee, but not for me. This hypocrisy has to stop. Realistically, I want you for a second, think of the message Canada has just sent to the world. This shows that Canadian society will hold a sports analyst more accountable than its leaders. This hypocrisy knows no bounds. If Cherry should lose his job over using an expression with some racial undertones, how is Justin Trudeau able to still be Prime Minister and leader of a political party after 3 cases of either blackface or brownface? It's clear that anyone who doesn't believe in the leftist progressive worldview has to follow those rules, and that the leftist progressives don't have to. This is how I know the sentiments from the progressives are not genuine. They are just like every other political movement that has come before them. They will take down their opponents, yet do nothing when one of their own violates the values they claim to have. This is no different than somebody from the religious right who spews anti-gay sentiments, makes anti-gay arguments, yet gets caught in a men's room partaking in homosexual activities. It's no different. This is the left-wing version of it. At the end of the day, is sticking up for veterans that offensive? Is it really that offensive? I kind of want an answer to that. Now, regardless, Cherry's had a long career. I believe he's about 85 years old. He'll be fine. I'm sure he'll be fine. Like I said, he's starting a podcast, so he has a new gig. I'm sure there will be people. He has fans everywhere. I am sure there'll be people tuning into this podcast, so I think he'll be fine. But bottom line, regardless of his stature or whatever, we have let words have too much power in society today. I believe we are so hung up on finding different kinds of intolerance everywhere that benign actions get misidentified as hateful. When you're looking for something, you'll find it everywhere, regardless if it's actually there at all. I think we are more afraid of perceived racism than, or other forms of intolerance, than we are of actual cases of them. And this needs to stop. We need to start trusting people again and stop with these hypocritical hate mobs. They're ruining life. Anyways, that's this month's show. I want to thank you again for watching. Excuse me for the burp. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you made it all the way through the video or the audio. Please share the podcast, like it on whatever platform you're watching it on, and remember to leave a comment. Until next time, thank you for watching Fortified with Gord Fortin. Have yourself a good day.